detailed presentation tonight to the board is how the staff is going to fulfill public records requests, what the cost of the district will be, salary, benefits, training, and fulfilling public records in the Sunshine Law. I'd like to put forth the following. I'd like to see the district bring volunteers in the staff and to do tasks that are done by Ms. Henderson, to train Ms. Henderson up to work on public records requests part-time. This was suggested at the March 3rd meeting, and there's plenty of high school students who need community service hours, and many retired citizens who would be glad to volunteer. Second, we can enlist the help of a temp agency to find the district someone with the skills to take care of what the district needs in order to fulfill public records requests. This will allow the district to bring in someone that will not require benefits, you'll not need to work them every day, and it will allow Ms. Henderson to remain in her current position. So I think, those are two alternatives to hiring somebody permanently. I mean, if you have to get to a point where you hire somebody permanently, and if you use a temp agency, you can use that person to look at them and give yourself enough time to evaluate them before you would go and hire them right off the bat. And if you didn't like that person, or that person wasn't measuring up to what you need, you would just find another person from the temp agency. Or you can go and hire somebody through whatever way you seem fit. But I just think that, trying to get volunteers or going through a temp agency would be cheaper, since you don't have to do the benefits and they don't have to be in here every day. So, just my recommendations.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Something. Can you tell me how you set up the?
Name and address, please.
Deborah Thurman, and I wish not to state my address due to identity theft reasons this time. Can you tell us how the agenda is set and how we get on the agenda?
This is a comment period, it's not a question answer period. I'll be happy to discuss anything about it that you have after the meeting or.
Okay, well, because I asked because there was a pay increase for the chief that was on the agenda, and it's not on here anymore.
There was an amended agenda sent out.
To us, the taxpayers?
Is the amended agenda,
It's posted, should have been posted within 7 days.
Okay, I guess I have the agenda with the pay increase for the chief. Sorry about that.
okay? Anyone else?
Just real quick, how many public requests are coming in now?
We'll address that and
Okay.
we'll get to that.
All right.
Yes. Anyone else? If not, we'll go to the review of the minutes for the regular meeting, July the 12th, 2016, and the special meeting, July the 27th, 2016. I'll entertain a motion to do both of them. Can we do both of them at the same time, or we have to do them separately?
I move that we approve the minutes to the regular meeting of July 12th and the special meeting of July 27th, 2016. Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any additions, deletions, or discussion? Call for the vote, all in favor? Shows carried. Next item is a review of the financial report for July 31st, 2016.
The financial reports presented in front of you are for July 31st, excuse me. We have 2 more months remaining in our fiscal year. We are on decline of our expenses. Our prepays are beginning to expense themselves out. Typically this time of year we do not have any large expenditures. We're trying to prepare for the year-end close. So there's really no abnormal expenses during the month to specifically address. We have other than equipment under $1,000, which is found on page 20. We continue to have expenses there, and these expenses are non-capitalized expenses that have been already approved for the purchase of new equipment on our new fire engine. There will be a proposed budget adjustment at the end of the year. We already budgeted for these items, however, the full budget amount was put under capital expenditure because, we didn't have the allocation at the time. Other than that, if there's any specific questions, I'll be happy to address them.
I'll make a motion to approve the financial report of July 31st, 2016.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, no business, planning project.
Yes, sir, in reference to the ISP, they have scheduled and conducted several interviews with staff. They still need to schedule a couple more of the staff. I would like to, and just Mr. Wilson, Mr. Harvey here, I'd like to set up a meeting, give Mr. Harvey and Mr. Wilson, set up a meeting of the planning committee so that we can discuss the ISP group and their ability to be able to accomplish what we're asking. I have some question in reference to where they might be able to accomplish that, so I'd like to be able to set that meeting up, just making the board aware we need to have that discussion.
Are you gonna reach out to Mr. Harvey and I and get
Yes,
this
sir,
done?
and we'll set your schedule so that way we can sit down and discuss it.
Okay.
But they have had, they have conducted a couple of interviews, 3, and they need to conduct 2 more, so they are doing things.
Will they be doing anything with any commissioners or?
I'm quite sure they will, yes, sir.
Yeah, the intent was to interview every commissioner.
Yes.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
what they're starting is kind of in the middle of the organization. They get a very good picture of how things work and the perspective of you guys doing the work.
Mhm.
And then come back up and then give you a
Okay.
perspective over that. So,
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
You have a chief report, your safety update? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have that much other than our season is winding down. We saw our first significant drop in attendance this Saturday. Yeah, that's right. And I think we'll see that even further this Saturday coming up, the 13th. But other than that, just looking at the statistics, there's really nothing out of the ordinary here, just a standard summer, a lot of people. I see that we've added Crab Island as well to this, but if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Joe, I do have a question.
Yes,
In
sir.
light of the lightning strike on Oakland Island, what do we do for our guys when that happens?
Our 2 officers are the only lifeguards, and I'm sorry, the harbor is allowed to because they're kind of out there, to carry their personal cell phones, and they monitor the weather with an app they've just downloaded. And if we have lightning strikes that are in the area, I think I have the policy written is about 5 miles. Because it's private property, we can't tell people they have to leave. We tell them we're leaving. We suggest you do the same to be in your best interest. And then we have designated areas for each zone lifeguard to seek shelter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then as soon as they'll check the app, they're just monitoring the weather. As soon as it's gone, they come back.
Let me ask you something. On this Crab Island, we've had 58 rescues out there this year.
I can answer that, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Yes, sir.
And 73 assists.
Yes, sir.
So Crab Island, we've had basically half of what we had on the 7 miles of beach. That's amazing to me. And I'm thinking that it's something very important we be out there.
As we all know, it's a very congested area. There are a lot of people in that area, and we know there are hazards that exist there that others do not or get caught in either way. So that happens. On the beach, you can have 7 miles. We might not have rip currents all up and down the beach, but what runs right beside Crab Island is the current that's flowing out. I mean, it's a constant, it's always there, so that's where we run into those issues, and it's even on the other side. So, I think that's where we get into those issues. It always exists, and continues to happen. Some people know it's there, and they still get in trouble. Where on the beach, when we say there's a rip current right here, stay out of that. We can get them out of that, but they've got other water to kind of enjoy it. We have such a congested area where it overflows into the areas that are of issue, so.
If I could too, just jump into the preventative actions too. We have the ability to tell them, advise them, this is a dangerous
Right.
area, don't go there.
Right.
Guys on the boat probably, that probably wouldn't work.
What's a boat infraction on Crab Island, Harbor Night?
So the boat infraction would not, I don't know what the guys are seeing for boat infractions. For us in Harbor 9, it would be from the east jetty to what they visually can see from that tower. There are a lot of people that come around the east jetty and anchor, and they're supposed to stay outside of 700 feet. Is that
Well, I
the
don't understand on the
ordinance?
beach, but.
So they're
seeing
witnessing-
boat infraction?
They're seeing the boat infraction.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
They're seeing.
So the boats come up right on the beach in the pass all the time.
They do in the past. Yeah. So the Harbor 9 is what they can see in that pocket, in that little
Okay.
section right
Yeah,
there.
on the back side of the jetty. And on
That's-
Crab Island?
I,
Is it
I,
incursion into the fairway, or?
I don't know. I don't know what that is. What the actual fractions are.
Mr. Wilson, I'll get you a copy to the
Okay.
individuals there,
Yes,
see if they
thank
can get you an answer to what they're actually seeing. I'll have that.
Yeah, I think crazy stuff that they try to traverse from Redneck Beach to Crab Island. Blow up kids' pool, stuff like that.
It could be
Correct, yeah,
it
come
could be
across.
angering in the corridor, angering in the channel. It could be somewhere like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of craziness going on.
Because our boat's not chasing down people in our, abiding by the no wake, are they?
No.
Hmm.
In those days, nobody is.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Training report, Chief.
Yes, so you'll see, this month, scheduled, training that was scheduled, and it was conducted. If you have any questions, the best answer.
Any questions for Chief? Move on to the inspection report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Probably the only thing of new note since the last meeting is I've received paperwork for Old Bay Village Phase 2 off of Matty M. Kelly. So it looks like that project may be getting active again. That's about 86 units of townhomes, about 12 buildings. But other than that, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to address them.
Thank you. Response change report.
Yes, you'll see on page 1 where in the month of July we hit our 90th percentile, which is good. That's really good, seeing as how we have moved our response times up a minute as compared to what others are doing. So that's good. Then you'll see on the other page where in Zone 1, 88 calls, which is only far end of the district. And you'll also see the total number of responses for the year, or for that month at 421. So that's a significant increase in July. And then the next page, you'll see the call breakdown per station. 279 of those in July were at Station 9, 142 at Station 10. And that kind of goes into being able to put a truck up there in the district, being able to pick out some of that, and then that kind of will smooth those, that call volume across 3 different stations as compared to being greater at one than the other.
You making any progress in being able to extract the data that we need from the county?
Oh, yes, sir, I do need to let you know, we have spoken with the chief of dispatch, and he's going to extract the data, because we have asked for him to go back to the point where we couldn't extract it anymore and provide that. It's going to take him a little bit, but he is pulling it, and he's going to provide it to us. So as soon as he does, we'll be able to update you.
Good, good. That's the best answer to give back.
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay, we move on to the overtime report.
I think we left out Mr. Ron's inspection report. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you were off quick. Wait. Yes, you'll see, it's, nothing of, really significant. You'll see there's one 24-hour, shift. But when we have someone out, we thought, we got it covered on the one shift where someone was out for an extended period of time, where we had hired the, one additional guy to be able to float where needed. On that shift, we got it predominantly covered, so we only had one 24-hour shift, which is good. The others are, predominantly holdover, other than, one half a shift. So basically a shift and a half. Not bad.
It's looking good.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. 2016-2017 budget presentation.
Yes, sir. Catherine has been doing a yeoman's job of trying to put this together, and I think she's done an outstanding job. She's met several commissioners to kind of give you a very short brief on it, and I'll turn that over to her and kind of let her run through the budget. There's been some minor changes since the time that we talked to her initially.
The problem which the district has found itself in over the past several years is that we've been maxed out on our millage rates while our costs have continued to grow. The actions which the board has taken over the past few years has allowed us to present a break-even budget, and within this budget, it allows us to not only grow the number of firefighters, but also to provide some stability of expenses into future years by creating an opportunity for the district to lower its millage rate.
Excuse me, we're lowering the millage rate?
That is the proposal which we have, yes. We have been told repeatedly by the taxpayers that this district will not see an increase in our millage cap. By reducing the millage rate now, this is going to allow the district to add 2 additional firefighters this year, which will level our shifts out. We do intend to apply for a SAFER grant again this year in hopes of adding an additional 3 firefighters to the staff. However, if the SAFER grant is received, in the 3rd year, the cost is totally borne by the district to continue to support those 3 firefighters. History has shown that by being at the max on our millage rate is risky. If there's any sort of fluctuation with property values, the district has no other revenue generating sources at this time to help meet our expenses in any given fiscal year. The district has been prudent over the last few years with its reserves to handle fixed assets. It would be a detriment to any individual fiscal year to have large capital expenditures come out of one fiscal year ad valorem tax collection. So the asset fund that was created is working properly, and it's been shown to do so over the last few years. So getting into the detail of the budget, I will not review every single line item. I will hit on larger line items or line items that are changing due to an abnormal situation. So the first that you will see is we are presenting a balanced budget which will produce an ad valorem tax rate of 0.9498. This is the equivalent of a decrease of $5 for every 100,000 of assessed value. And it's basically keeping our revenue at the same level of our current year, of our current fiscal year ad valorem taxes. If we were to increase our ad valorem taxes to the full 1.0 millage rate, it would allow an additional $273,000 to go into our budget. So the commission does, this is proposed, the commission does have the option to approve, what's presented when we get to our budget hearings and to our when we get to our budget hearings, or you can propose us to work up some different numbers for this ad valorem tax, but we're proposing a rollback. Other revenue, I've already mentioned the SAFER grant, so we're proposing 3 people, and hopefully we'll hear by the end of this fiscal year when we'll be able to apply for that. Going into personnel services, personnel services have been adjusted to our current staffing level, adding 2 people within the ad valorem tax proceeds, adding 3 people under SAFER grant, and adjusting benefits as we are contractually obligated to do for the upcoming fiscal year. One item that is not adjusted at this point is our pension liability. We're not gonna take a stab at what it's gonna be. We have time to get from from the pension board's actuary, what the true effect of the change of the pension article is going to be. Now, this is going to create, you'll see that, we're proposed funding it at this point of $835,000, which is $35,000 less than our current year. We expect this to go down. And there's a couple of things that can be done if this goes down. You could lower the millage rate further. You can use those additional savings to pay down the pension. You could continue to put that level into the pension to pay it down. Now, there's time in between now and our budget hearing, and you have the right to call for another budget workshop. It would need to be a special meeting at this point, but that's truly the only item that is undetermined at this time within this budget. The only other item that I'd like to mention in personnel services is the insurance benefits. That has been reduced according to the proposed contract that we just went through, and it has a 10% increase. We have received rates back from our carrier. However, we do not have the ability to change our medical plan. That has to be done through negotiations. Moving on through the budget. Legal services, excuse me. Legal services, we're proposing a reduction. However, we're not bringing it down to historic levels. Typically on a non-collective bargaining year, this budget is set around $20,000. On a full budgeting year, without the use of attorneys, it's set at $40,000. With the use of attorneys, you don't know what your number is going to be because the negotiation, as we've learned this year, the negotiation process is what it's going to be. This commission doesn't have the control alone on what those costs are. We are proposing a decrease of $42,000. If the local does not approve the contract, which is before them now, we will have to, the commission will have to go straight into negotiating again. So it is larger than what we wanted to see. Another item to mention on this page, and I only mention it for the simple fact that it's not a high dollar amount, but under utilities is a line item for cable. We're increasing this line item by approximately $1,500, which is basically doubling the line item for the most part. And this is due to the fact that Cox Communication over the years has figured out its loopholes, and now every single TV that wishes to be used must have its own box, must pay for its own service. So it's going to double our cost for that line item. We do feel that it's something that has always been provided. We think that we should continue to do it. However, we have not implemented that at this point because it was such a dramatic change for that one line item, but we're putting that in here at this point.
Question. Don't we only have one TV here?
No, we have TVs in all of the bunk, I guess they're the bunk rooms, the sleeping areas.
We have 7 bunks, so there's seven sleeping areas. There's TVs in each one of those. So we were proposed to be able to put boxes in those and pay for the service, as well as out of station 10 where there's up to 4 people stationed, plus the primary would be 5.
So that's considered a fringe benefit then?
Yes. Right. We provided it.
Under repair and maintenance, we are requesting a 50% increase in the budget line item for building repair, which is $6,000. Our buildings are aging. We need to do some window repairs and some painting and some lighting repairs on some of the buildings. So we're proposing an increase increase in that item. I'm gonna move on to the third page, which is capital outlays. There are several items here which we have determined that are beyond their useful life here at the district and they need to be upgraded. First is building improvements. 61,000 is suggested for a capital outlay, and this consists of two separate items, one of which is to insulate the buildings in the hopes that it will, help us long-term with our utility costs. And the second item is a rough number. We have 25,000 built in for a exhaust system here in Station 9. We're not required to have this system because we have two bay doors.
I'll pick it up, Cameron. It's out of Station 10, because they are not drive-through bays, we have an exhaust system. Because both doors can't open, you don't get a flow of air through to be able to remove the exhaust from the vehicle, so we require to have it out there. Station 9 is never installed because they are drive-through bays, and you can open it up and the air, wind, push the exhaust out of the bay. What we received is some complaints from the guys, and valid ones, where when they're bunkering out and the truck is being cranked, that initial blow of exhaust is on the guys that are getting bunkered out. So that's a significant concern for us. So we would like to put the system this year in where we have the two bays for the two engines, because those are the diesel motors that operate in the bay. And then next year we'll propose to put it in for the gas operating ones, which we would think would be lesser cost than the two longer bays. Because of the concern for the guys and their health and cranking the truck up and then getting hit with the exhaust. Making other modifications as far as saying wait for the guys in the truck and crank the truck up, and that's slowed down response time, so it has a domino effect. They need to get in dressed, and we don't need to wait for the truck to be cranked up.
So you're talking about the same system that's in 10, that you hook the exhaust to the tailpipe,
Yes, sir.
not a fan on the side of the building itself?
We have that. That's not going to do the job as far, because as soon as it blows out, it's right where the guys are. So putting the exhaust in would not allow that. It'll also allow that the truck can be run in the bay without the exhaust being blown in the bay and waiting for the wind to blow out. It'll remove it and push it out through a series of piping, just like at Station 10. So we feel it's a safety concern, as well as it's a ability for us to run the trucks in the bays when we need to, and being able to
For checkout or whatever?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Good deal.
Sorry, Ms. Captain, go right ahead.
No, that's fine. The next item under capital expenses is Wagner gear, and that will be a cost directly associated with the hiring of potential of 5 employees. Equipment other for $34,000. This has multiple items in it, such as mannequins to be used for training. We need a new AED for our boat. And the largest would be an approximately cost of $26,000 for a new air compressor to fill our tanks with.
SCBA one, I'll pick it up. When we initially built this station, we bought a Mako air compressor to fill our, and people call them air tanks, those are SCBA bottles, for our air packs that we utilize when we go inside the building, construction project. So when we bought that, we had low pressure bottles. When we upgraded our SCBA's to high pressure, to 4,500 PSI bottles, our compressor system set at 45. So therein lies an issue. We need to have an additional, when you have 45, you need to have 6,000 pound air compressor, not a 45. But we've been managing it, but that's putting a significant wear and tear on that compressor. Because you have to run it more to get to the 45. When you have 6,000, you have to, anyway, there's the whole dynamics of it. But we didn't, at the time that we got the air packs, we didn't have the funds to be able to, because we got those on grant, we didn't have the funds to be able to purchase the air compressor. So we feel as though it's time. We're utilizing the asset fund to assist us to purchase this, meaning that the air compressor that we purchased with the station, when we bought the station, has now fully appreciated. So the dollars are sitting there to replace it for that purchase cost, plus some to help offset the cost of the new air compressor.
The next item to mention is furniture of $12,000. This would be to purchase new recliners, commercial strength recliners for Station 10. We would be looking to do this through a state contract. So individual cost maybe around $1,500. And then the last item to mention under capital expenditures would be vehicles. There's a $53,000 line item. This is to cover the cost of 2 vehicles. The first being Beach 10, which is having some corrosion and rusting issues, and the second being the fire marshal vehicle, which is one of the oldest in our fleet, which is having internal flooding issues that unfortunately have not been able to be resolved.
Almost swimming pool.
There is one item that I'd like to go back to on page 2, which I overlooked, which is a substantial item. It's down towards the bottom of the page under the category Other. It's called Training and Per Diem. This category, we are proposing an increase of $20,000 to bring the training budget up to $32,000. And this will allow the district to bring training here to our site for some of the new incentives that are being provided, such as high rescue training and hazmat training. I guess I jumped back quicker than I should have. All of the capital expenditures proposed, with the exception of bunker gear, are proposed being funded from the asset fund. That is the purpose of the asset fund. The majority of them already have items within the asset fund that have been being depreciated. Beach safety is a self-contained program. All of the funding is received from either the TDC or the city of Destin. So I've sat down with Division Chief D'Agostino, and we've gone through his budget and segregated the line items out there. I guess if there's any specific questions on that or within anything else for the budget. The budget presented reflects an overage, or shortage, a shortage is actually what's presented, of $1.153 million. This is before we receive any funding from other sources. So from that loss, we hope to receive funding for the state pension fund from the state, $336,000. It's projected that we're going to receive $550,000 from the TDC and $100,000 again from the city. The use of assigned funds, which is the asset fund for the payment of capital expenditures of $167,000, and that brings us to a break-even budget, a zero budget. As I stated at the beginning, this is the budget that Chief Sasser and I have been working on with the help of our battalion chiefs to identify what's needed for our buildings, what's needed for our guys to operate safely, and we are proposing a budget rollback. However, the commission can certainly decide to do otherwise if they wish.
I like the idea that we are rolling it back.
It's nice.
I like the idea that we roll it back. Chief and I talked about that.
Well, the one thing it does, it leaves us some room in case we do have a fluctuation in the market, as we've had, and nobody can predict that. And I just think it's a good, prudent safety net to have for the district.
I disagree. What is the average valuation of a dwelling unit in our district? The number 250, Rick, you probably 300. Okay, so we're talking $15. That's what we're rolling back per taxpayer. I'm going to get tons of cards and letters saying thank you for that. Like, no, okay. We've twice gone to the taxpayers and said, you know, to run this district the way it's being run, that we want to run it, we need more money. They've twice said no. Well, now we have just a smidge the other way. My first thought would be, I would say first, I think the way you did the budget was exactly right. So what do we need to run this place? And here's what the number is that it comes out to. So then you took one more step and said, so we should roll back. My answer would be, what else could we do? And the thing that is an overhang to me this past year, we've gone backwards on our pension funding. We've dropped below 60% of our pension funding. And we're never going to get to 100%, but I would leave it at 1.0, which is where it's been. and I would put the additional into the pension fund to get that back up north of 60, 61, 62, something like that. And that's what I would do, rather than give back $5 per 100,000, which is a de minimis amount, when you sprinkle it there. It is good optics in cutting the rate, the millage rate, but I think it's better optics in taking care of our firefighters and the pensions. I like your point about, it gives us some headroom. Well, honestly, we've done this sometime in the past 3 years. If we overfund that pension fund in a given year, so we're building up, we're reducing the deficit, if there comes a time in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years from now, we can do what we've done before, and the funding in that 1 year can actually be reduced because we're still above the hurdle we need to be. So we create, in fact, some cushion because we're getting better at funding the pension fund, but we're taking $5 per 100,000 from me and putting it into the firefighter's pension. So that's kind of the way I come at it, right? I'm bothered by the fact that everything we did right in the last 3 or 4 years, we went backwards on the pension funding, which we didn't do it on purpose. It just kind of happened that way. We never know exactly where it's going to land. The $9,331,000 that we're underfunded, I'd love to write a check for $9 million. You can't do that. Okay, that would be nice to get to 100%. I know that's a dream, right? But we got to do better than 59.8%, and I think there's a chance to do that in a very modest kind of way. It holds all our options in place. It doesn't. We don't have to go back now and increase the rate at some point in time to generate that. We just leave it right where it is. If it was a 1%, I mean, if it was a significant drop, I'd probably feel differently about it. But it's so de minimis that I would just take that money and park it in the pension fund.
I can understand your reasoning on that, Jack, and it does make sense, there's merit to it, but also, I would like to see what comes back from the actuaries on the pension board as to the effect of what we're looking at now, and see what they project in the next year or two, what effect that would have. I have no objection to doing the 270 in the pension fund, because we aren't obligated to do that every year then. And, but it's something that we need to look at and consider. And
I just look at property values have increased, and they're gonna continue to increase, and the trend that it's
well,
currently going.
and that trend can turn around like it did in
And
2008.
but then there's that cushion that we've got to go back up
Yep.
if we need to.
But well, we're saving our cushion. Okay?
Yeah, but I
Instead
understand.
of giving it back to the taxpayers, saying we're gonna raise your rates next year, we park in the pension fund, which we would hope it stays forever. I mean, honestly, the longer term view of this thing would be that we do that for a couple of years, and then we find ourselves operating at 1.0, and we can bring a whole shift back in. We can claw back what we've lost. Okay? And we do that without jerking the public up and down and all that kind of stuff. You're right, we need to wait and look at the pension fund, see where they come down, see what those numbers are, but the marker I would put down, that although I think you've done a great job doing the budget, you work back to what we need, I wouldn't jump to the conclusion, let's go cut the millage rate. This commission should decide what best to do with this little tiny modicum of flexibility we finally have around the budget.
I just know we just jumped it up quite a ways back because of the property
2 years
value.
ago? Yeah.
That was a long time ago. It's been
Yeah.
it's been at 1%.
It wasn't that long ago that we were rolling it back every year too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can see both sides of the aisle.
Well, that's something that, like I say, that we need to study on a little more and get some more
Yeah.
facts.
And then we can sit down and roll scenarios.
What I would suggest then is to have a special meeting, the last week in August. August 29th is the pension board meeting.
So after that.
If the actuary is able to get his calculation done, which has not been given to him yet, then we should be able to have that meeting after that pension board meeting. I would suggest Tuesday the 30th, if that works for the commission. It keeps going on Tuesday night.
I have no problem with that.
I'm out of the country, I'll be home that night from Italy. Well, we can do it the next day, we want to.
Our whole week is free, yeah, I mean, it can be done.
Let's do that so
Why
everybody
don't
be here.
Yeah, I'd rather have a full board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wednesday then, maybe the first.
Pardon me?
31st?
31st Wednesday.
31st.
What I'll also do is we do like to, just take a look, make sure that there's, especially this time of year, we don't like to have our meetings the same time. There's a tentative hearing somewhere else, even though it's gonna be a workshop, so I'll just verify with the, school board and the city and the county that they're not having any of those big meetings, any of their big hearings. And then I'll reach out and we'll get a meeting set.
I do have another question though.
Yes, sir.
For the other station at the west end, is any of those figures figured in here potentially?
No, not at this point. We don't have, currently, we're trying to get our manning back up to sufficient levels to be able to, operate the apparatus, the 3 apparatus. Until then, I don't think that it's, the district's plan. We have to have the staffing for it, and right now we don't. We just need to build that level up first before we consider, I know that the commission's been talking about the answer to that.
What we're
So
looking
that
for.
takes into consideration. Only two.
But this is not anything we don't have to.
Do anything tonight.
Anything with this budget tonight, because
We just
once,
need to-
once we establish it, we can always go down, but we can't go up.
And it's already been sent. We have a time requirement through the trim process to send when our meeting date was going to be for our tentative hearing, and which is September 13th, and what our proposed millage rate was. And that's been advertised, that has been sent to the property appraiser at 1.0. That's where we've been at, we've been maxed at it. You can always take that number down as something that we would present, you cannot take it up.
Right.
So we've remained consistent with that.
I'm glad you presented these numbers so we can look at them. Dissect them.
Do you have any, are there any suggestions that you as a commission have that maybe we don't have in here, you didn't see, that you were concerned about that needed to be addressed?
I didn't see anything that really popped out at me.
I would though, in the future, start looking at cost for that other station, truck. So if we even could put it in our asset fund, the amount, and all that kind of stuff.
The biggest hurdle is gonna be with the station. I do not believe we'll be purchasing the apparatus or any type of remodeling, because of it being additional station being added and an additional truck being added to the fleet. We should be able to utilize impact fees to accomplish that. I don't think that's the hurdle. The hurdle's gonna be the constant cost. So, which, we can figure electricity bill and that kind of thing will not be significant, it's gonna be personnel. So, and that's why with us proposing like what we are with the budget now, add those personnel back, and then I kinda look at that and get them on, get that operation going, ensure that we're able to staff those vehicles now, which would be 3, and if we're able to staff those 3 moving forward, then we can take 1 from this station, move it to there, and then we'll have 3 apparatus, but they'll be spread throughout the district instead of 2 hold up here. So we'll be able to move 1 of those there. So the personnel, I was thinking the personnel would be first, and then we move to the other things that we can make happen.
Don't put the car in front of the horse, right?
That was my thought. You remodel the station, they're down there, you provide the truck. You gotta have personnel to be able to put it in.
Okay. What else? All right, we'll move on to the next item, public record request, staffing.
Yes, sir. I think there were a couple of commissioners that actually wanted this on the agenda and had asked for some numbers. Those numbers are there. I can let Ms. Catherine go through those, and she can explain what those numbers are, as you have on the graph, as well as the cost. And then we can discuss how we arrived at where we are and our thoughts on it, based upon what the board's thoughts are. So, Ms. Catherine, if you would just kind of run through this.
Before you, you've seen this presentation before in our, I believe it was our March meeting, where we initially looked at these numbers. So what's changed is we've gone from approximately 107 record requests up to 218. So you can tell by the flow of the chart that it's putting a demand on us as far as fulfilling the requests. I do not have for you right now, and I apologize. I can give you a rough estimate. I can't give you an exact estimate on time spent. Back in March, we began tracking, recording our record requests. That way we know how long it's taking, basically, and how many records requests that we're having. And we probably, of the 218 requests, it probably averages out to probably around 10 minutes per request to fulfill the request. That does not account for all of the time to make sure that you're filling the request properly. Florida Statute 119 details all of the responsibilities to make sure that the entity is doing this, and no one's an expert. No one's an expert at filling records requests. That's certainly not what I was hired here to do. I've learned the statute as we've gone along, and when record requests came in, I had a new record request come in just at the end of last week on Friday evening, I guess. And it was something new that I've never fulfilled, so I had to kind of take a look at the statute and figure out, is there anything that I'm not supposed to provide, so, I don't release some sort of personal information that shouldn't be out there. So what we record is the 10 minutes per request is substantially greater than that as far as the time frame to go. The 218 requests has taken, I want to say it was, and again, I apologize, this is just an estimate, I think it was 6 full days to do that, so you break that down. That's just for that portion, that's just for filling it. It's not for the research and the things that aren't considered, shall we say, chargeable if it goes over 15 minutes. So it is taking a substantial amount of time. What we've been requested to do was show how many requests we've had over the years, and then what staffing options would be. So you see, you have before you the cost of a part-time system and the cost of a full-time system. We do not feel that it's a need to have a full-time person in this position. We're not looking to bring someone in to have sit idle. We're not going to do that. We would request, if our current staff didn't want to take a full-time position, we would request to bring in a second part-time individual, and the cost is there before you. And the times that part-time individual would not be working on requests, we would have other duties for them to do. There's certainly a lot of those things to do. If I can address, Mr. Harvey had asked some questions at the beginning in regards to different methods of fulfilling requests. And one of those ideas was volunteers. The problem with having volunteers is they come and they go. We need somebody who is going to be here permanently, who knows what our records are, where they are. We can train them on the statutes. Unfortunately, I don't believe that you can do that with voluntary people. I think it would be wonderful to be able to give community service hours to high schoolers. I think it would be wonderful to do that. I think this department is pursuing doing that in another means, but this is not the place to do that. There's everyone that handles public records is responsible for public records. It does fall solely, however, on the public record liaison, which is me. So if there's anyone that's brought in, they're under my supervision for this, and they're going to have to go through a lot of training. They're not just going to be put in and do the job. It's going to take a lot of time to get somebody up to speed with that.
Let me ask something. Does the city of Destin, didn't they hire a full-time public records person?
Yes, sir.
Does the county have one?
Oh, I'm sure they have more than one. Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's not uncommon to have a public records person?
Custodian, no, sir.
Okay.
As far as bringing Ms. Henderson up to speed on public records, she's a part-time employee, and unfortunately, her hours are busy fulfilling other needs that this district has for her. If the commission feels the need to, to add additional staff, that's certainly an option. It can be addressed with our personnel and see whether, that's an option that the personnel would be willing to accept. But that would turn into a full-time position. So there's a couple ways to do it. If the board decides that it needs to be done, I can tell you that I am one person, and I'm only one person. And I'm trying my very best to make sure that all of the duties and responsibilities that are upon me are fulfilled accurately and as timely as possible. And unfortunately, with the growth of these records, I'm concerned that it's going to cause problems in other areas of my job function.
Well, I know we had at one time 2 full-time and part-time, correct?
We actually had 3 full-time administrative staff. At one point, we had a receptionist, we had an administrative assistant, and we had a financial.
Right.
So we had all 3 full-time positions at
They're
one
all,
point.
okay.
Yes, sir.
And assistant chief.
And an assistant chief and a medical division chief, yes, sir.
Well, I definitely see a need for it because, I'm not riding by spine, but I know Catherine's been up here at 8, 9 o'clock at night. I know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, putting in a full day. So, she's worked hard and I think we need to get her some help.
I agree. I like the idea of a part-time assistant compared to a
To a
full-time.
full-time.
Compared to full-time. I was hoping the request would go down, but obviously they haven't, so. And is that 15,000, is that already in the budget, or we have to
No, we would have to, for our upcoming fiscal year, we would have to
make
modify
an
the
adjustment?
What training would be used for available for somebody doing public records?
There are in-house classes as well as there are other classes put on by a couple of different organizations. The state itself actually has classes that you can take. And then there are those that can be the First Amendment Foundation puts on. So both are good classes. I've attended both. They're good, and I would recommend that they attend both and would ensure that they do. So, as well as, probably even more importantly than those classes would be the in-house, on-the-job training here with Ms. Catherine, because what you get in those classes is a good overview. But when you come back and you talk to someone who's actually had to fulfill the records, do the statute research, all those things, it's significant. Those classes don't touch, it just covers the surface, it just brushes across it, kind of gives you an broad overview. So, they're good, very informative, but the bulk of the work will be here, learning the nuances of the job.
So what's your recommendation? I mean, you're the ones that do
My
it every day.
recommendation would be a part-time employee. Catherine speaks because we've had numerous discussions in reference to filling this position. She also speaks because that person will be working for her. So she needs to speak of that position because it's going to be someone that works directly for her. But my position, as Catherine elaborated, is that we utilize a part-time person to fill this position.
And that's their sole job is to do the,
No.
just, I don't,
It would be her primary job, not her sole job.
I would foresee, and I think the second job that would go with it, which would go hand in hand with it, is records management. Because that's
it's a job in itself.
a job in itself, and actually, records management is creating us issues at this point, because a lot of things are being transitioned to electronic format, and now we're paying additional costs for electronic storage, and,
That's the way the world.
yeah, I mean, that's the way it goes, and we can as a department be more proactive on our records and storage of them, how long we need to keep them for, to prevent excess costs and so forth. So that would be my recommendation, but the person would not sit idle, that's for sure. There's many things that the individual can do throughout the department to help with everyone else, not just individually from my department.
But records management is one that Catherine hits on, which is, from the time that we brought Catherine on, it's been something that has been, we have a lot of items on the to-do list, and we prioritize based upon the priorities of the board, and also based upon the staffing that we had to be able to accomplish those priorities. So we have a lot on our to-do list, and bringing this person in will assist us with accomplishing some of those things on our to-do list. And records management is one of those that she and I had discussed when we first hired her. She saw how we store our records, where they're located. She came up with a system, but we can't get it taken care of because she can't break away to get that done. So I think we can assist in starting with this person, starting to be able to accomplish some of those things that we set goals for but can't get accomplished because we just don't have the staff and the time to do it.
So, that was my question. So we have 200, so maybe over 300 before the end of the year. That drops down to 50 next year. There's no work for that part-time person to fulfill the part-time job.
Yes, sir.
And on the reverse side, if it goes to 500, we can actually make it go to full-time if we had to. Because we start off part-time.
I think that's a good kind of putting your toe in the water, just starting out with a part-time position and see how that goes. There's no benefits to go along with it. There's none of that. It's the straight. That's what it is. That cost, and that's it. No hidden cost. So I think that's the way it goes. There's a lot of other ideas, and I appreciate the additional input that we received. But that's great, but, my recommendation was to go with a part-time person. Temps are okay. I've seen those work well. I've also seen those not work very well. Tried but terrible. But, so I'd rather be able to go through the process, be able to interview, that kind of stuff, and hire someone that Catherine and I are able to sit down and talk to.
I like the idea of the part-time too, because when Allison's off, you can still have someone here instead of making one full-time. When they're not here, you're by yourself.
I can work on overlapping
Yeah.
schedules.
So I'm fair to that, so I'll make a motion to move forward with getting a part-time staff on board to do the records request.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Or I should say, let me amend that, say, for records management.
Records management.
Do you have any other questions? Call for the vote,
Commissioner Green, I would like to, just for the record, clarify my remarks about using volunteers. My remarks were to have them do the mundane task within the system here, not be the people who did the public records request or whatever.
Okay.
Because that's just not, I just want that clarified.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get your question answered about the number of public records requests?
Yes, I did, and, it's 218 year-to-date, and actually comes out to about 2 a day. If you take 160 days over 8 months, 20 working days, comes out to about 2 a day.
As the board knows, they don't come in.
Yeah, they don't come in.
Tend to be a little lumpy.
Yeah.
Well, some days you may get 5, and some days you may not get any.
We'll get 15 or 20.
Okay, our next meeting will be a regular meeting, September 13th, 2016, at 5:30
Do you
p.m.
have a comment before it's over?
Yes, go ahead.
Over the last 2 years that I've been on the board, we tried to balance we tried to be financially sound. We made tough decisions, and we directed the chief to make tough decisions and tell them to implement our decisions. And I had asked for, on the agenda, put in there for an increase for the chief, and not because everybody else in the department's got one but him, but because he has worked hard, he has done things. Anybody can give a raise, but he's done things that weren't favorable. He did things that were tough, and I just felt that he deserves his raise too. And hopefully sometime in the near future, we can put it back on the agenda and properly give him his raise that he deserves.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Our next meeting is regular meeting September 13th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m. We'll have a public hearing that same day at 6 p.m. Concerning the tentative budget, proposed millage rate. And then there will be a public hearing on September the 21st, 2016 at 6:30 p.m. to adopt the final budget and millage rate. And there is going to be a meeting, did you say?
Yes.
We'll probably advertise it, put it on the website. and
Okay.
all that.
We'll
All right.
coordinate it and let the commissioners know.
Absolutely.
Okay. That being said, this meeting stands adjourned. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
So I would expect to get some good information from
Yes, sir.
Rich, how you doing? How you doing, Ron? How are you? I'm doing well. Good to see you.
The fill is there.
Huh?
I want to see what we continue to go on.